Yo guys, Drine here, and this is a calculator I built a few years ago. This thing can add up two numbers, each with a maximum value of 101, which is not very impressive. Also, this thing is horribly slow and inefficient, and that's what I'm gonna change today. Not by actually fixing it, but building an entirely new one. Let's build a 16-bit calculator in Minecraft. Before this video starts, I just want to mention that I am in no way a redstone expert. I can build giant castles and palaces with my eyes closed, but building a giant complicated redstone machine? That's not exactly my cup of tea. I am still learning. I'm learning how to do redstone. So I'll try to figure out as much as I can myself, but for the more complicated parts, I might just have to follow a tutorial. So, let's start building. And I think the first thing we need is an interface. We need a way to input numbers into our calculator. I think that's pretty important. In this old calculator, again, horribly inefficient, I have one button for every single number from 0 all the way up to 101. And I'm afraid this isn't going to work this time, since we're going to be building a 16-bit calculator, meaning the maximum number is 65,535. What I want to do is, just like on a real calculator, have a 3x3 button interface where you can type the numbers one digit at a time. And yes, we need an extra module to convert the individual button presses into a full number, but I think it's better than the alternative, which is doing it this way, building a 65,000 block long button interface and hard code every single number into binary like I did here. I also want to mention how I did this, how I figured all of this out. I didn't. Over here you can see that I followed a tutorial by Nathan's Sandbox. He's a guy on YouTube that made a great tutorial for a single digit calculator. It's a great video if you want to check it out, link in the description. And he made a calculator that can add up two single digit numbers. And it works great. It's perfect if you're getting into redstone, but not so great when you scale it up a little bit too much. So yeah, I basically did the exact same thing he did. These are the exact same principles, but I just did it a lot bigger. Anyways, back to this calculator. I think I got everything I need here. So we got the 3x3 button interface. It goes from 1 to 9, left to right, top to bottom. And I have a lever here to indicate which number I'm typing. So when we're adding two numbers, we can type in the first, and then we flick this lever, and then we can type in the second without interfering with the first number. And all of that is of course going to be shown on a display somewhere over there. Next, we want to clarify what we want to do with these numbers. Do we want to add them, subtract them, multiply them, or divide them? However, for this video I will only be doing the adding and subtracting, because otherwise this video is never gonna get done on time. And I'm not even sure if I can figure these out. These two are an absolute nightmare. I'm not even sure if I can do them. Then we also have the reset button. So yeah, this is going to be a 16-bit calculator, meaning we can enter numbers all the way in between 0 and 65,535. If you go above that, the system will overflow and your results will not be accurate. So first we want to take the output of these buttons and throw them into an encoder to convert them into binary. And then that signal is going to travel to two places. First of all, it's going to travel to the display so we can visually see what we're typing. But it also needs to go to the modules that actually do the calculating. But let's focus on one thing at a time. Let's take the outputs from these buttons and build a small encoder. And there we go, that should do the trick. So if we press any of these buttons, only one of these 10 lines will get unpowered. And you can see these torches here. When this line of redstone gets unpowered by the press of a button, this torch will be unlocked again and give a signal. And this way I'm able to convert a redstone signal into a binary number. So for example, if I press number 5 here in the middle, then 3 lamps have lit up. The 1 line and the 4 line, which together is 5, and also the 0 line or the signal line. This line right here is going to be very important for the level shifting once we have a display. I'll explain level shifting later, but right now the only important thing is that it works and we can accurately represent our button presses into binary. And I think the next step in building this calculator is probably making the display, so we can actually see the numbers we put in here. So I'm just gonna quickly make a giant wall of redstone lamps, and now it is time for the redstone behind it. So to show the numbers on screen, we're going to be building a 7-segment display. It's basically the way digital clocks show you the time. So there are 7 segments, that's where the name comes from. The combination of these segments can get you any number in between 0 and 9. So what we need to do is we need to connect individual redstone lines to every one of these segments so we're able to control them. And that's exactly what I've done here. So right now they're all unpowered, nothing should be showing right now. Let's say we want to make a 1, that's these two right here. And there you go, that's the 1. Let's say we want a 2. I think that's this one, the middle one, the bottom one, and this one, maybe? Nope, I made a 3. Let's say we want a 2. I think that's this one, the middle one, the bottom one, and this one, maybe? Nope, I made a 3. Switch these around. Oh, wait. No, this one is going to have to be powered. Okay. But yeah, you can see how it works. In my old calculator, I just used pistons pushing out blocks, but I don't know, I think this is way fancier. But unfortunately, this is not all. We of course need to connect this with our button inputs right there. So the initial signal this will receive is a binary number representing 1 digit, but we need to convert that into a readable number on our display. So we're gonna have to build a few decoders. And if I did everything correctly, this should be all of the redstone for 1 digit on our display. So like I said before, this is basically just 2 decoders on top of each other. So let's say we want the number 3, then the first decoder, which is right here, this will make sure that with this combination, only this line right here will be unpowered. The rest are given power, and then these torches right here make sure that the correct segments on our 7-segment display are being lit up. And if we take a look, yep, that's correct. We put in 3 and we can see 3. Let's put in 7 in binary, which is 1, 2, and 4. If we take a look, that's 7. Perfect. Now we just need to copy paste this design for every digit we have here on our display. And in total, that's actually going to be 20 digits. If you remember, 65,535, that's the max input number, which is 5 digits. So both of our input numbers, these are going to be 5 digits. And then I think the max value, if we multiply them, that should give us a number with 10 digits. So let's fly to the back of our display. And now we need to copy paste this design 20 times without something going wrong. And this is what it now looks like. Nothing much has changed, although we have some things on screen going on here. Also, don't worry, I will be removing those blue dots. But if we come around the back here, yeah, there is a lot of redstone going on. This looks so cool. I love the way this looks. So as you might have noticed, I also did some other things other than just copy pasting these modules. So first of all, I added this bar here. This is just to make it visually more clear what the input and output numbers are. I also added some leading zero logic. So when you put in a number, all of the zeros in front of that number will not be shown. Before I did that, all of the digits on screen would have been 0, but with the leading zero logic, every 0 in front to the left of the number we're putting in will be removed. It will not be shown. And these 2 modules right here, these are called shift registers. So let's say we want to put in number 1, right? So we put in number 1 and it shows on screen right here. Now let's say we wanted to write 12. Well, that's a 1 and a 2. But if we now put in a 2, where does the 1 go? Well, it needs to shift 1 space to the left, and then the 2 comes in this place. And that's what these modules do. So if we now put in a 2, there we go, the 1 should have shifted to the left, and a 2 is now showing. And for that, I'm gonna have to thank MadBadWings on YouTube. He's really talented with redstone, and he has a few series on his channel. One where he explains every part of a calculator, and another one which is basically almost like a block-by-block tutorial for an 8-bit calculator. I'm doing a 16-bit version, but the concept is the same, and I learned a lot from his videos. He explains everything really well, so if you're interested, you can find the link in the description. Anyways, our display is now ready to be connected to our input system right here, which I believe is just as simple as extending these redstone lines to connect with the inputs of our display. The only extra thing we need to do is to connect this lever. So when we're entering number 1, we want to block the signal from going into the input for number 2. And when we want to be inputting number 2, it's the other way around. We want to block the signal from going into the input for number 1, which should be as simple as just placing down some comparators that will get powered from the side, and when they are in subtract mode they should block the signal. So right now I think I have number B selected, so number A should now be blocked by these torches. They are now unlocked and giving power to these comparators, and if I place a signal down here, you can see that it doesn't travel through. This is now blocking the signal. But there are also other ways of doing this. For example, using a piston. So when the power goes away, this block gets dragged down. And then there's a gap in the line of redstone, so no signal can go through. But if it's powered, the repeater will go through the block and send a signal through. However, pistons aren't exactly the smoothest and the most accurate redstone component in the game, so I'll just stick to comparators. And there we go. If I did everything correctly, this should now be working, at least the input. So let's select number 1, and let's type 12, for example. That's 1. Oh, okay, something is not working. Okay, let's start it again. So let's type 1. Oh, okay. That's weird. Okay, so let's type 1 for the 3rd time, and hopefully... Oh, come on! Okay, so now the bottom one is showing. If you flip this and press number, what is that, 5? Oh, okay, I found my mistake and you're not gonna believe me. These blocks, these torches that need to power these pieces of redstone were shifted 1 block to the right, so they weren't doing anything. So stupid, but at least it should now work. Let's try it. So right now we have number 1 selected. Let's put in number 5. And it works. Let's put in number 9. Perfect. And if we switch to number 2, we can, let's do, what is that, 7? There we go. 2. I think we can safely say that this thing now works. This is amazing. So now we finally have a way to visually see what numbers we're typing in. So we got number A up there and we got number B down there. But now it's gonna get a lot more complicated. We need to figure out a module that can take these 2 numbers and either add them, subtract them, multiply them, or divide them. So before we can talk about the CCA I built here, you first need to understand how binary works. And if you already do, that's great. Feel free to skip to the next chapter of this video. And if you don't, here's a very quick explanation. So first let's take a look at the number system we use in our daily lives. This is called the decimal number system. This is a position system, meaning the position of a digit gives that digit a certain value. So for example, if I have a 1 in this place right here, well, that's just number 1. But what if we have a 0 right here and the 1 is over here? Well, now we have 10. What we're actually doing here is multiplying this number by its position. So this position is times 10 to the power of 1, which is just times 10. 1 times 10 is 10, plus 0 times 10 to the power of 0, which is just 0, so 10 plus 0 is 10. That's the value of this number. And the further you move away, the bigger the value this number gets. And it works the exact same in binary. Let's say we have a 1 right here, and everything to the right of that are all zeros. Well, then we have 1 times 2 to the power of 4. 2 to the power of 4 is 16, so 1 times 16 is 16. This number would have the value, the decimal value of 16. And you might have noticed a difference between the decimal and binary. In decimal we have a 10 right here, and in binary we have a 2. That's because in decimal, one digit can have 10 different states. We have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. In binary, it only has 2 states. It's either 1 or 0, either on or off, which translates perfectly to Minecraft because a redstone line is either turned on or it's turned off. What we are building is a 16-bit calculator, meaning if you would extend this, this is 2 to the power of 0 to the power of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way up to 16. we would have a value down here of 75,536. So yeah, our calculator can handle some pretty big numbers. So what I have right here is a module that can add up to 16-bit numbers. Let's take a look how we would normally do this. So I'm not going 16-bit because of course this is going to require me to go off in the distance over there. But let's do a simple calculation. So let's do 5 plus 3. So 5 is 4 and 1. So I'm going to make these 1 and everything else is going to be 0. And there we go. This is 5 in binary. So 4 plus 1 equals 5. Then let's do 3, which is 2 and 1. All right, there we go. So if we want to add these two numbers, we're first going to start on the right. 1 plus 1 is 2. But hold up, 2 doesn't exist in binary. So we're going to make this a 0 and then carry over. Remember that word, carry. We're going to carry over the 1 to the next calculation. So now we do 0 plus 1, which is 1, plus 1 is another 2, which doesn't exist. So we make this a 0. We carry over the 1 to the next. So right here we have the exact same thing. We have 1 plus 1 plus 0, which is 2. So we make this a 1, not a 1. We make this a 0 and we make this a 1. And then 0 plus 0 is 0 plus 1 equals 1. And now if you take a look at our answer here, we now have 1 times 2 to the power of 3, which is 8. So 1 times 8 is 8, and that's our answer. 5 plus 3 equals 8. And there's one more thing you need to know, which is multiplication in binary. There's a very easy way to do simple multiplication. So let's take this number right here. This is 5. If we shift everything to the left by 1, we should get the double of that. So the 1 would be here, which is 8, and over at the 2, so that's 8 plus 2 is 10, which is double of 5. So when you take any binary number and shift it to the right by 1, it gets multiplied by 2, which is exactly the same in decimal. If you shift this one over to the left by 1, it goes from 10 to 100, so it gets multiplied by 10. Try to keep that in mind. So now that you understand the basics of binary, now it's time to translate that into Minecraft. So what I have right here is a CCA, or a carry cancel adder. It's a design by Magic on YouTube, and MadBadWings also made a great tutorial for this. They made an 8-bit design and I expanded it for 16-bit. So this thing can add up two positive 16-bit numbers, and it does that in a fraction of a second. It literally takes longer for me to fly from the input to the output to see the result. That's how fast this thing is. So the reason it's called a carry cancel adder is because, for example, right here we had a carry carried over to the next calculation. And now we had to do an extra calculation with this carry. So what this thing does, it takes that carry and puts it into this slab tower, and the signal will travel up to the above modules. But the thing is, that's what every part, every layer of this module does at the exact same time. It takes input A and input B, and it adds them together, and the carry gets transported to the other modules. In other words, this thing is ridiculously fast. So let's do a quick example, the same one we did over there. So let's do 5 plus 3. So 5 is 4 and 1, 3 is 1 and 2, and we're gonna fly over, and there we go, we got the answer already. 5 plus 3 is indeed 8. So, are we ready to build this in our calculator? Not yet. First we actually need to find a way to get these numbers that get inputted into this machine. Because if you remember, our interface over there is just a bunch of buttons. We need a way to translate the individual button presses and make a full number out of it. And that's where this module comes in. It has the same CCA as its core, but it does have a few modifications. Do you remember when we built the shift register for the display? Well, we kind of need to do the same thing. We need to find a way to multiply the previous number times 10 to shift it over to the left when we put in a new number. If you remember, if we shift a number over to the left by 1, it gets multiplied by 2. If we, for example, shift a number 3 times, it will get multiplied by 8. Meaning if we do that at the exact same time, the number will get multiplied by 10. And that's exactly what these redstone lines right here do. So they take the signal from the previous output, it travels to the one module above it, but it also travels to the third module above it, meaning it will get multiplied by 2 and by 8. So in total it gets multiplied by 10. And then there are also some other modifications, such as these pistons right here. This is just to clear the system more quickly, but it works. So let's do an example here. If we quickly reset this, there we go, all our lamps are turned off. Let's say we want to type 12, we would type 1, and after that we would type a 2, and if we count up these values, 8 plus 4 is 12. Now it might seem like I just casually built this thing. I spent 15 hours on this. Yeah, the problem was this thing needs to be synchronized. It is very, very important that all timings are correct. And there were two problems with this. First of all, in Bedrock Edition, the locked repeaters always need to be on 2 ticks, because 1 tick just doesn't work. And second of all, I have 2 8-bit modules connected with a single line of redstone, and this also creates a delay. And that delay needs to be the exact same for every line that gets carried over from the first module to the second module. And it was a huge pain. I spent way too many hours on this. Like, all of these are failed designs. Every red outline is just, it doesn't work. This was my first time trying. Just look at this mess. It's such a mess. But I finally got it to work, and for that I'm gonna have to thank Matt, or MattBadWings. He helped me understand the timings of this thing, to understand how it's supposed to be synchronized. A huge thank you to him, because this video would have literally not been possible without him. But anyways, this thing works, and it is time to copy paste this design over at our calculator, and I actually already did that. You can kind of see the module there. So what we need to do is we need 2 of these modules. One for input A and one for input B. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the output of both of these modules and plug it into our adder right here. So these lamps right here will just connect to one of these rows right here, and then our answer should show up over here. I don't know if that explanation made any sense, so I'm just gonna do it and I'll bring it back once I can actually show you something. And there we go. We now have 2 of these modules right next to each other. So we have these buttons right here. When we press them, they will of course go to the display to actually display the numbers. But I have also branched off of these redstone lines, and these redstone lines go all the way over to here, and then they go down into the inputs for these 2 modules. And I also added the comparator thingy here, just like we did on our display over there. So this just blocks the signal from going into the wrong module. It looks like a giant mess of just utter chaos, but I think it's beautiful and it works. That's the main thing. Let's actually show you. So I'm gonna take, let's say 130. That's easy to see on the lamps. So right now number A is selected, so we do a 1. What did I say? 130, so a 3. So we can see it on the screen right there. There we go. Now if we go take a look at these modules, I haven't put in the adder yet, but you can see that right here, lamp 128 and 2 are turned on. This thing is working perfectly and I cannot be happier. So what we need to do now is to extend these output signals. We're gonna create like a data line just purely for these signals, and then over here we can branch off and add our adder, we can add our subtractor or divider and multiplicator. Is that how you say that? So yeah, let me do that real quick and then I'll bring you back. Okay, I have done a lot of work. First of all, I extended the output lines from these 2 modules. So right now we can connect all of the math units right next to each other, and I've already connected the CCA here. So if we input 2 numbers, it should give us the sum of it right here. But that's not all. I also added some functionality to these buttons right here, where you select the operation before it starts calculating it. Without it, the calculator would use all of the math units at the same time as soon as I press even one button, which would create a lot of lag. And it would also break the multiplication and division modules. And also the calculator wouldn't know what output number it needs to show on screen. And that's why I have these comparators here, just like I did on my display. So when you press the add button, these comparators will unlock and allow the signal to travel through into the CCA, but everything else stays locked for the other math units in this calculator. And the way I wired these is by using T flip-flops, which is this thing right here. A T flip-flop in Minecraft is basically a way to transform a short pulse from, for example, a button into a constant signal. So for example, if I press the add button right here, this flip-flop has now switched, so it has now switched states and now it's outputting a signal we can use for the rest of our calculator. And every time I select any of these buttons, the pistons will push this redstone block on top of this redstone line, which resets all of the T flip-flops before it selects a new one. And I also wired the reset button to do the same, so it also resets all of these flip-flops. And then we can use this signal for various things. For example, right here we used it to unlock these comparators to allow the signal to travel into our CCA. But we can also use this signal, for example, to show a plus sign on screen. So that's something I want to add as well. So I guess I can finally show you this thing working. We don't yet have a way to show the output number on screen, but if we count up the numbers, the values of these lamps, then we should get our answer. So let's do a small simple calculation. Let's do 9 plus 14. And there we go. None of the lamps at our CCA are turned on, but when we press this button, whoops, that's when it should start calculating. And if we come over here, none of these lamps are turned on, but this one is. So 16 plus 4 is 20, 22, 23. 9 plus 14 is indeed 23. So now it's finally time to complete this calculator by adding a way to get this binary number into a readable decimal number on screen. How do we convert a binary number into separate signals for every digit on our display? Well, we're gonna need something called a binary to BCD converter. And this is what one of those modules looks like. This is a design by Master on YouTube. It's called a combinational binary to BCD converter. It uses a bunch of these modules connected in a certain way, and then magic happens and suddenly your display knows what to do. Now I'm not gonna explain how this thing works. It like checks if the input is greater than 4, and if it is, it adds 3 to it. I don't really understand it fully myself, so I feel like I'm not qualified to explain this. All we need to know is that it works and we can use it in our calculator. Now there is one problem with this design, just a teeny tiny problem. According to my calculations and this schematic right here, we're gonna need about 155 of those. And if I touch one repeater, if I accidentally break one torch, nothing works anymore. So yeah, this is going to be fun. So the gray lines right here, these are all of the redstone lines connecting all of these modules, and every orange rectangle is one of those modules. We need 155 of these. So at the bottom we have the binary number. This is the output from the math units. And then at the top we should have the BCD signals for our display. And this way every digit on our display will get the correct signals and knows what number to display. And I've already prepared the back of the display for this. So you can see I've lined up the outputs in a way that will keep this calculator a little bit more compact. So these modules will go from here probably like 100 blocks, maybe more in that direction. So I guess I should start going then. Yeah, looking forward to this. Wish me luck. Okay, this is pretty cool. I've never really used structure blocks before, but that's so cool. You can see like a 3D image of what you're trying to scan. I love it. So yeah, obviously I'm not going to be building all of this by hand. I'm gonna use the clone command to copy it all the way over there. But I built this in the wrong orientation. It needs to turn 90 degrees, and apparently you can do that with structure blocks. So let's try this then. How do we do this? Let's load. I think I named it BCD. Nothing is working. What? Oh, I just need to press load. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's so handy. Okay. So we get integrity is 100. That's useful. Let's see how. Oops. How is this? That's not rotated. Huh? Wait, we need to load it. Is it rotated now? I am very confused. I am... What? Okay, you know what? I'm gonna try that again. Okay, maybe I first rotate it and then I load it. Did that work? I think it did. Is everything, yeah, everything is in the right rotation. This is perfect. Okay, so now I'm ready to start copy pasting this design over 150 times. Also, I don't know if I need this one, the structure void block. No, I don't. I think. Yeah, I'm gonna be cloning this with the /clone command, not with the structure block, so I don't need this. It's a pretty cool block though, look at that. I've never seen that in Minecraft. It's pretty cool. And that is number 1. Only 154 more to go. We're already almost there. This is gonna take a while. That went surprisingly well. I only messed up once at the beginning. But yeah, now we have our binary to BCD converter, which was the only thing left to get our answers to appear on our display. Now in the time-lapse you could see me paste all 155 of these modules, but I also did a lot of other stuff as well, which I completely forgot to record. I was like, yeah, let me just quickly connect these modules together. That doesn't need to be in the time-lapse. And then I was like, oh shoot, I also need to connect the inputs to the modules. And once I did that, I was like, you know what, let me just connect the outputs from our CCA to the inputs of this, so we finally have a working calculator. This is where all of the outputs from the math units will connect to. So they go from the math units all the way over here to the inputs of the binary to BCD, and I had to do a lot of spiraling redstone as well to get these to connect. I haven't given this a proper test yet. I have tested every line individually, but not in combination. I wanted to do that on camera so you guys can hear me cry when it doesn't work. Wait, what? Anyways, let's give this thing a proper test. So I used a random number generator to give me a number in between 1 and 65,535. And it gave me the numbers 47,259 and 8,860, which if we add these together should give us the number 56,119. Alright, that's our first number. Let's now put in our second number, which is 8,860. So let's press this button and now we wait. This CCA module takes like no time at all to calculate it. There we go, we already got the result. But it takes like 9 seconds to go through the binary to BCD converter. But our result should pop up. There we go. 56,119, which is correct. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a working calculator. This project was so much work, but seeing this, it really pays off. But we're not done yet. We still have a few more things to add, like for example adding a plus sign right here when we're adding, and the same for when we're subtracting, multiplying or dividing. We just want some type of symbol on screen that will tell us what we're doing. But like I said, I will leave the multiplication and division for a next video. For now, let's focus on the subtraction part. We already have this adder right here, our CCA, which makes it possible to add numbers together. Let's now try to find a way so we can subtract numbers. But how do we do that in binary? And how do we do that in Minecraft? Well, it's actually a handy trick that allows us to subtract by adding. Allow me to explain. And of course, if you already know binary and understand 2's complement, or if you just think my explanations are boring, feel free to skip to the next chapter of this video. So let's start with an example. Let's say we want to do 7 minus 5. 7 in binary is 4, 2, and 1, so it's 0, 1, 1, 1. There we go, minus 5. 5 in binary is 4 and 1, so it's 0, 1, 0, and 1. So we as humans understand that 1 minus 1 equals 0. But how does a computer know this? Well, it just doesn't. By using a trick called 2's complement, we can turn a subtraction into an addition, which is really beneficial in the world of computers because you can just use the same units that you use for addition for subtraction, so you don't need to design something new and less hardware is required. And here in Minecraft it's also pretty useful because I don't have to design a new module. So what does this 2's complement rule say? Well, if you take a positive number and invert its bits and add 1, now you can use that number as if it's a positive number. It's a negative number that's represented inside of a positive number. So let's return to our example here. We were doing 7 minus 5, which is 7 plus negative 5. So let's do this 2's complement rule on 5. So 5 is 0, 1, 0, 1. There we go. Now let's invert all of its bits. So this 0 becomes a 1. This 1 becomes a 0, and we do that for all of these bits. There we go, and now we add 1 to the right, so this 0 will become a 1. So now we should have 1, 0, 1, 1. There we go, let's now change this number right here. So this is gonna become 1, 0, 1, 1. And now we can just do an addition. We can add the 7 with the negative 5. So instead of it being a subtraction, it's now just an addition. So let's do this real quick. 1 and 1 is 0 with a carry. So that's a 0. The carry comes over here. So we got 1, 1, and 1, which is 1 with a carry. There we go. So then 1 and 0 is 1, plus 1 is 0 with a carry. And then lastly, 1 and 1 is another 0 with a carry. And this is our result. 7 minus 5 equals 0, 0, 1, 0. Or 2. 7 minus 5 is 2, which is correct. But this bottom number here, our answer, isn't always positive. Sometimes it's negative. Let's say if we did 5 minus 7, this would have been minus 2. In that case, our carry would have been a 0. These are ways we can see if our answer is positive or negative. So these were the basics. Now that you roughly understand how this works, we can start building this into our own calculator. Alright, I've now built another one of these CCAs, and because the second input number is always going to be the negative number, that's where we need the 2's complement. So I've inverted all of the bits by using a redstone torch, and we've also added an extra 1 to it by activating this carry in right here. And of course I've also done this comparator thingy right here to block the signal from going in, unless we press the subtraction button over there. So as I've explained, we will be looking at the most significant bit, which is this one over here, to check whether our answer over here is positive or negative. If this lamp is turned on, that means our answer is a positive number, and then we can use this output right here. But if this lamp is turned off, that means we have a negative number. But the way this display works is that it always shows the positive number, but then we need to add like a minus sign over here somewhere to indicate that it's negative. And to convert this negative binary number into a positive binary number, we just need to convert this again using the 2's complement. So I've inverted all of the bits using these torches, and at the bottom we have the carry in also selected. So if our answer is a positive number, then this adder is all we need, so we can just take the output from this. But in case the lamp is turned off and it's a negative number, then we need to apply 2's complement again, and that's what this second module here is for, and then we can use this output. So let's do a small example here. Let's do 7 minus 5. So the outcome is positive because this lamp is on, meaning we can use this output. This should be the correct one, and this says 2. 7 minus 5 is indeed 2. Now let's do 5 minus 7, which should be negative 2. So let's take a look over here. Now this lamp is turned off, meaning this right here will be the correct output. So if we take a look, it also says 2. But this time we also need a minus sign to appear on screen, so it says minus 2. So this works. But you might have noticed that this isn't connected to our display yet. That's because we still need to add some logic that detects the state of this lamp and then blocks either one of these outputs and let the correct one go through. And with the help of some more comparators, I believe this is now the case. And I've also connected the output lines to the binary to BCD, which means this thing should now work. Well, almost. We still don't yet have a way to let a minus sign appear on screen when the answer is negative, but we should be able to get the correct absolute value of our answer. So let's give this a test. Alright, I've once again used a random number generator, and it gave me the numbers 18,499, and the second number is 22,342. Alright, I've put them in, and now it's time to press the subtraction button. And of course it's not gonna give us the negative sign yet, but it should give us the correct answer. And my phone says 18,499 minus 22,342 equals minus 3,843, which is absolutely correct. This thing works. I am so happy right now to see all of this function, but we're still not done yet. We still have 2 more things left to do in this video. So first I want a symbol to appear on screen depending on the type of operation we're doing. And lastly, I want to see what this thing looks like on a map. I have some space back here, but I don't know if this is gonna be enough. I think this calculator is gonna be way too big for this. So let's just get this over with quickly. I'm gonna build this symbol module over there on our display. Then I'm gonna connect everything. And after that, we can give this calculator one final test. Alright, so I've once again used a random number generator and these were the numbers it gave me. So let's now try to do the addition and subtraction of these 2 numbers. So let's start with the addition. I'm gonna press this button and hopefully after a bit of time the correct answer, there we go, we got the plus sign coming up right there. And hopefully after a few seconds the correct answer should show up. 1,292 plus 53,693 is indeed 54,985. This is correct. So I've now selected subtraction, so the addition module is now going to get blocked, so this right here should go away now, and then the correct answer should show up. That's not right. Now I fixed it, so it's now giving us the correct answer. So yeah, as I said, I've added the math symbols right here, and I also did a few other things to make it nicer, like adding logic, so the minus sign right here would only show in front of the number. So it would basically check where the most left number is and then place a minus sign to the left of that. And what I did wrong is this 0 acted as if there was no number right here, so that's why this 0 was an 8, because it added that middle line right here, which makes it an 8. And there were also a few timing issues with the subtraction module that caused unnecessary numbers to appear on screen when we would press the subtraction button or if we would reset it. So yeah, I also fixed that, so this calculator should now work 100% of the time. Obviously there's no way for me to test it, but theoretically all of this should work. And you might have seen it already, I've also made a map of this entire calculator. Look at this. This looks so cool. This is where we are right now. This right here is the map. This thing is huge. So yeah, in this video we have successfully built a working 16-bit calculator in Minecraft, which can add and subtract. I will now get to work to try to figure out multiplication and division, but that's for another video. And I also want to thank Matt and his awesome community once again for helping me multiple times throughout the creation of this calculator. But that was it for me today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you hopefully in the next video. Goodbye.